What does it mean to be a leader is bringing out the best in other people. Human beings don't thrive on uncertainty. Finding something you love is a key ingredient to maximizing your full potential. AI is really, really good at processing huge amounts of data, noticing patterns, following sets of rules. Where AI is not good, understanding the broader context.
You've helped scale multiple companies, and now you're scaling your own company.
A friend of mine reached out to me recently and said, I lost my luggage on a flight on a business trip, and after 5 hours of trying to track it down, I finally downloaded Duckbill, and within 15 minutes, I had the tracking number in my inbox.
It sounds like an absolute personal assistant on steroids to me. Welcome to the Money Signal podcast from Main Street to Wall Street, where we decode consumer conversations and how they drive markets and generally the world. Today, we're joined by Meghan Joyce, and I'm absolutely delighted to have her as my guest and to get a chance to sit down with her. She has an absolutely fascinating background, so I don't even know where to start from, Meghan. There are so many things that I want to cover. But I know we just started talking about this, I would say, global hopping that you do on a regular basis. So maybe you can actually help us understand and the listeners understand a bit more about you and where you live, I guess, or like, where are you these days?
I am a citizen of the world right now. So, my hometown is Boston, and that's where I get my mail. But these days, with teams in San Francisco and New York and the value of really being in person with everyone, I really split my time between those cities. And it is so worth it. God knows it's not always easy. I have been battling with Mother Nature this winter in terms of flight delays and train cancellations, but there is nothing like being in person with a team. And this was something that I learned not only in my very first job out of college at Bain, when I was visiting factories and offices all over the country to really get to know people, and observed how much easier it is to make impact and progress when you're sitting side by side with someone, breaking bread with them, getting to know them outside of a Zoom screen. But now that I'm running my own business, I find that having locations and offices in those multiple cities is incredibly valuable from a talent perspective. But I don't want to miss the opportunity to be in person on the ground with those teams. And so that is what we've chosen to do. I'm on the road a lot, but it's really worth it. And it makes all of the travel delays worthwhile.
I find it absolutely fascinating because you're also a mom, and I honestly cannot even imagine how difficult it must be coordinating pickup schedules from school and activities.
I have an enormous amount of help. And that is the basis of this company, Duckbill, that is building that infrastructure layer to connect AI and humans and actually enable offline help in an AI world. But the reality is, frankly, I am able to be focused and on when I'm on the road. I book my schedule from 7 a.m. breakfasts all the way till 11 p.m. drinks with my team and everything in between. And I'm not guilty about not being home, tucking my kids in. And then when I am with them, I am present and I can be there with them just as attentively as I am with my team a few days prior.
Absolutely fascinating. From one mom to the other. Good for you. And may God be with you.
Thank you. It works for now, one day at a time.
Well, I find it absolutely fascinating when I read your bio that you are, you're a leader. So you're not only an entrepreneur, but you're a leader. And I say that those two words don't always go together.
I feel so seen. That is the highest compliment. Thank you.
And I was so between all of your resume is beyond impressive. I read the bio, I saw your background. So from Bain, obviously, which is a huge name, to Uber, to Oscar Health, you've held incredibly high positions and you've transformed these companies. You've been part of their journey. So you have been a very transformative leader at those organizations. And I have a lot of questions because I'd like to hear all about, raising money and then being basically leading female figure at all the organizations.
Yeah.
But I'd love to hear more about how did you understand that you are a leader? Because I know you're an operational person.
Yeah.
Like you love operations.
Yeah.
And that's what Duckbill really is, which we're going to talk about in just a second. But how did leadership find you?
Oh my goodness. I love this question. Leadership at the end of the day is what I am most passionate about. And I happen to find it an area that I loved to lead in, which is technology and business and general management. But at my core, leadership is what I am most passionate about. And so thank you. I really do feel so seen that you asked this question. I remember very early on being one of the leading roles in a school play and having the student newspaper interview me about what it was like to have this role. And they asked me about being a leader in this school performance. And I somehow, from the depths of my childhood brain, summoned forth this line that I had heard my mother use to describe my grandmother, who herself was an entrepreneur and mother back in the 60s and 70s when that was not a common combination. It's not a common combination now. Definitely wasn't back in the 60s and 70s when she was doing it. And the response of what does it mean to be a leader is it means bringing out the best in other people. And when I think about that, what greater honor and privilege could there be than to do that for others and to do that for organizations and help people achieve more than they ever dreamed possible as a team together? And I remember this being reported in the school newspaper and a bunch of adults in my life saying, like, where did you get that? Where did that wisdom come from? And this little sixth grade girl. And it really was those role models in my life, my parents, my grandmother. I had a great aunt who was an executive early on, and seeing that is a calling that spoke to me and that I felt was really rewarding and noble and something to be proud of. And it has been the most fulfilling thing I could dream of doing with my time. And to be honest, going back to the point of being a working parent, it raises the bar for what you do in your day job. And for me, it has to be good. And for me, leadership is that.
Wow, I'm honestly amazed. And it's interesting that you say that you had that calling since you were in sixth grade. And that's when you kind of it really stuck to you and you realized that this is your calling and that could be your future. Because again, I have kids and they're going to grow up, and I hope someday that they also realize their calling early on so they have enough time to focus on their skill set and developing that.
I'm a huge believer that finding something you love is a key ingredient to maximizing your full potential, because I've always found with both things that I've been really good at and frankly things I haven't, it really helps when I'm thinking about it in my spare time, when I love reading about it, when I love, thinking about it in the shower. And what more could we ask? We're all working so hard than to be doing something we love. And so finding the intersection of, what it is that you truly care about, and then how to do that in a way that's sustainable for you or your family or your career, that I think is a real unlock.
I agree with that. I find it also interesting that you say that this is the key ingredient to success. To all the listeners, and again, the younger generation who is yet to choose their future career, I always thought when I was younger, oh, what would I do? And what do I love doing? I'm not even sure what I love doing besides, of course, being on the beach and doing yoga all day. I could do that very well. But then how do you actually begin doing something that you love? And how do you really spot, I call it signals, right? Because we're on the Money Signal show. What's the signal that makes you understand that? So I think it's very interesting that you mentioned it.
There's one interview question I ask everybody who's interviewing for my team, and it's, tell me about the moments in your career that have given you energy and the moments that have drained it. And what was it about those moments that gave you energy or drained it? And that signal, I think, is often the first cue that this is something to lean into and pursue more.
I can already tell that you're a great manager, by the way, because most of the time managers do not care about that stuff. So that's actually a great question. Thank you for sharing it.
Of course.
When basically you've helped scale multiple companies and now you're scaling your own company, I'd love to hear more. Maybe let's take a step back and hear more about Uber. You helped scale Uber basically to Series B.
Yep.
And
From Series B
to IPO,
Yep.
which is fascinating. If Peter were here, because he's the IPO, all about the New York Stock Exchange and IPOs at the New York Stock Exchange guy, I'm sure he would have many questions. Throughout that whole experience, how did you kind of like think about the hypergrowth of these companies? And what was the most difficult thing during that hypergrowth period?
I think the hardest thing about hypergrowth is that you and the team need to stay a step ahead of the growth. So if the trajectory of the company looks like this, and for those who are just listening, I'm putting my arm up and to the right, then the pace at which the team needs to evolve and develop and be seeing around corners needs to follow a trajectory that is at least 10% to the north of that, which is a really steep incline. And that can come from a combination of a couple things: people scaling themselves, or constantly evolving the team, whether it is the org structure or who's working on what project or what new people you bring in and what people you say, you know what, like you loved the Series A, the Series B, the Series C world. Like, let's find you a role that gets you back to that, whether it's internal or external to the company. But at the end of the day, business is people. And I was loving in one of your earlier podcasts about what you and Peter were talking about it's all relationships. That's really at the end of the day, what it is. It's talent. And when we are scaling that quickly, having people who can not only keep pace, but then stay a step ahead and say, okay, if this is the trajectory we're on, here are the challenges that I see coming down the pike. Here's the next set of issues I'm recognizing are kind of breaking and we're going to need to get ahead of. Here are the systems that I need to be building for when we're 10x, because we're going to be there before we know it. And that, I think, is the hardest thing, because human beings' brains don't thrive on uncertainty. They don't thrive on ambiguity. They don't thrive on change. That's a really hard thing for the average human brain to deal with. And I think the most incredible learning that I had at Uber is that we are all capable of dealing with uncertainty, ambiguity, change. And when you put someone or people in a situation that is scary and they don't think is possible, and then they do it, they succeed, they figure it out, not because it's easy, but because they tried and tried and tried again, it teaches you that you are capable of anything.
And you mentioned talent. So again, it's about the people and it's about the relationships. When it comes to the talent, how do you even find talent these days? Let's talk about AI from the AI angle now. How do we get to find talent?
Honestly, I'm not sure AI fundamentally changes my calculus as much as I think a lot of other people are thinking about right now. Because I've, for the last 15 years, have worked in high growth tech. And there, the characteristic that I prioritize number one on my list is hunger. It is finding people who are self-motivated and self-driven and hungry and love to build, love to win, love the mission. I think if you have that, you can run through any wall, you can learn any skill, you can find a way through any problem. And in an AI world, I don't think it's that different. I think the landscape is changing, the tools available, that's all changing. But at the end of the day, good people run towards burning buildings. They run towards ambiguity. They recognize that if everything is ambiguous, Nothing is settled and certain. And that creates huge opportunity. And it's that inner hunger that I think allows us to make what could be a scary setup into incredible opportunity. And that is true more than ever in an AI economy.
And is that what you saw when you started Duckbill? You saw the opportunity, you read the signal
Yes.
that was in your life?
Yes.
The signal came?
Truly, it really is. And I was doing my own social listening of sorts for years before we started Duckbill. This came from a very personal problem of not having enough hours in the day to do all the things I wanted to do. I mean, we were talking about being a parent and an executive and a leader. You know as well as anybody, there are not enough hours in the day for those things to come in the same package, for those things to be handled by the same person. And for centuries, that kind of work of maintaining a home and a family has been done almost exclusively by full-time, stay-at-home or hired people in the home. And here in the 2020s, the economy, our society looks a lot different than that. Most US families do not have a stay-at-home parent. Most US families are either a single working person or two working people who may or may not have kids and aging parents in the mix, never mind pets and plants and all the things that make up a rich life. And we don't have that structure that the economy and careers and satisfaction used to be built on of, these stay-at-home people who are kind of doing it out of the goodness of their hearts and love or frankly low pay for a long time. And when I was an executive at Uber, I thought I'm using technology to democratize access to rides, transportation. I got to Oscar, we were using technology to democratize access to world-class healthcare. And all the while, I thought, surely we must be able to use technology to democratize access to help, because all my friends and I talk about when we go out and have dinner or drinks or whatever it is how are you making this work? What are your hacks? What are your secrets? Like, you hired a nanny? How did you do that? Oh, you're getting a fractional assistant? Like, how are you doing that? Oh, I can't afford that. Me either. Who can afford that? How are people making this work? That was the conversation over and over and over again. And so even before we were all talking about this in social media, it was that kind of informal listening that really cued me into this opportunity. And the problem was I couldn't figure out the tech wedge. I couldn't figure out the technology that would actually let me offer a service like that, help, in a high quality way at scale. And it had to be high quality and it had to be able to scale, because I don't build small and I don't build poor quality. I wanted to build something that actually worked and that actually impacted millions and millions of people. And that all changed when I started using earlier versions of AI at Oscar. And I thought, I think this is the technology that I've been waiting for to crack open this category. And that's when I started Duckbill.
That's fascinating. I checked out your website and I read more about, obviously, Duckbill itself. And one of the things that I loved, by the way, was first and foremost how the AI actually works, which I'd love for you to tell us more. But then secondly, I loved the branding. So from a marketing perspective, just for our viewers and listeners, one of the developer parts of the website is called whattheduck.com, which I thought was genius.
Yeah, whattheduck.ai. Come check us out.
Oh, apologies. Whattheduck.ai. And when you hover the mouse, there are actual ducks, which I thought was such a nice touch.
Fun. Life's too short not to have fun with it.
I absolutely loved it, honestly. I did not really know much about Duckbill before, of course, I got connected with you.
Yeah.
And once I looked it up, I immediately, of course, had to check it out and learn more, and was very interested in seeing basically that you're trying to help busy people. Because the world is so busy today.
Yes.
I mean, I get busy and overwhelmed by the amount of logins I have. It's not even a joke. It's a true story. How many apps I have to log in, then how many things I have to handle. As a parent, leave alone my schedule and of course, then the kids' schedules. There are activities that you have to partake in, and God bless all the moms who text me all the time. Reminder, tomorrow is X day. Reminder, tomorrow is this thing.
God bless those people. I
Yeah.
don't know where I'd be without them. Yes.
But I realized that without any type of help as a parent and as an entrepreneur, you are left with nothing.
Nothing.
So I love the concept of Duckbill and the fact that you're trying to solve problems for existing and normal people like us who struggle every day with basic tasks, not even high level, basic tasks. Let's start with that. So I'll start with a question, which is, again, about working parents. I just can't help it talking about the parental experience. But for all the working parents who are listening right now, how can Duckbill actually help solve a lot of the things that they have to deal with every day?
The average task that our average user comes to us to solve has two characteristics. One, it is really hairy. The kinds of things that you and I get stopped in our tracks by are not the straightforward ones. Not the ones where we have a clean app or it's just check a box or it happens on autopilot. It's the stuff that really matters and is wildly complex. So finding an extracurricular activity for your child who may or may not have some particular needs or allergies or, preferences that happens to work with their schedule and your schedule within a radius that you are willing to drive or walk or subway on this particular afternoon. That is a puzzle. And it requires an enormous amount of not only digital, but often offline help. Making phone calls, making sure that this activity would work for a kid with ADHD, making sure that it's a nut-free facility, making sure that I see on your website in one place it says you have class on Tuesday and another place it doesn't, which is correct. There is not a single kid's activity or appointment or medical need that has touched my family in the last few years that is not complicated. It's always complex. And that's heightened by the fact that it really matters. It really matters getting that appointment for your kid on a timely basis, making sure that they are in an extracurricular that they feel passionately about, getting the right instructor or coach or person in the mix that can really bring out the best in them. And so that brings me to the second characteristic, which is when it's done, it gives you enormous relief. That physical, if not mental, sensation of just having your load lifted. And those are the two characteristics of the things that people bring to us. So the number one most common thing that we do for people is medical appointment booking.
Wow.
It always involves complex phone calls. Even AI phone calls cannot complete the level of complexity or patience that it requires to navigate that phone system. The average parent on our system makes 27 pediatrician calls a year. And most pediatricians' offices, when you say this is AI on a recorded line, just hang right up.
Yeah.
It requires a combination of AI to get all the details right, make sure we get it right for your calendar and your kid in a really private, secure, buttoned-up way, and often a human in the loop to make sure that those 27 phone calls go through and that you get this done where and when you want it.
And how does it work through basically if I'm a user and I'd love basically for Duckbill to take over everything that I have to do, not only for my kids, but my daily tasks too. How does it work? So you sign up on the website.
Yeah. So most people use Duckbill as an app. You can go to the App Store on iOS or Android, download the app, sign up, start an account. I'll share a promo code for you and your users. Anyone who wants to come on, check it out for free on us.
Amazing.
And get going. There are often key tasks that people are dreading or procrastinating or the reason they downloaded the app to begin with. A friend of mine reached out to me recently and said, I lost my luggage on a flight on a business trip. And after 5 hours of trying to track it down, I finally downloaded Duckbill. And within 15 minutes, I had the tracking number in my inbox. So come with your hairiest needs. And if you're coming and saying, I know I could get more out of this, I don't really know where to begin, there's an onboarding, there are suggestions, there's a lot of ideas that have come from users just like you that we greet you with upon coming through the app, and we'd be delighted to help. And what our technology does is triage your hairiest, most personal, most complex ask.
Awesome.
Figures out what can AI solve and where do we actually need humans in the loop, whether it's for boots on the ground, run an errand, wait in line, make that complex phone call, and deploys it out to a series of humans who are vetted and badged. We know they can do it well. We've made a market to understand how much time we think this is going to take by what level of skilled person. And we say, here's what it's going to cost. We route it to that person, and then we quality control. We monitor everything they do. We record everything that happens. We ensure that what you asked for was actually done. And if and when it was, then you get charged a handful of credits and you keep going. And it's as simple as that. The other thing that we've realized is that at the end of the day, Duckbill has built the infrastructure layer that allows execution of the long tail of tasks. And so while most people do come to us through the app, you can also plug us in to your favorite AI of choice, your favorite LLM. You can plug us into Claude or ChatGPT or Perplexity.
Wow.
You can access us through Manus or any number of different autonomous agents. And so really what we want to do is meet you where you are dumping your hairiest, biggest needs. And then we provide that infrastructure layer that triages, market makes, routes, and quality controls to make sure that those things actually happen and happen effectively.
It sounds like an absolute personal assistant on steroids to me. So what I understand is that you guys don't only have the technology. It's not just the AI component. There's the human in the loop component, which is basically the smart. So between AI and people you have,
yes,
you really have like a beyond a personal assistant. I mean, can I call it that?
Yes, absolutely. The way that a lot of customers talk about it is having a personal assistant on steroids. It is someone who never gets tired, is accessible 24 hours a day, can speak every language, can run errands for you all over the world. I mean, this is what a lot of us would dream of having, to the tune of, a handful of coffees per month. And it is what we all deserve. I think there's a lot of talk about what AI will do for us, and it's a wildly powerful technology. But all too often, AI hits a wall at the very moment that you want it to go ahead and do the most painful part, right? Like you're chatting with your favorite AI bot, and it's like, here's a script to call your health insurance company and get those claims reimbursed. And it's like, well, no, this is the hard part. This is where I actually want the help of a technology or a service to do this most painful part. And that's exactly where Duckbill steps in.
I already can't wait to sign up and start using it. I was going to say, or abuse it. Poor
Abuse
Duckbill.
it all you want. That is what it is there for.
I did not actually realize that you guys are international in terms of languages. So that's very important with especially multilingual families that we have everywhere. People traveling. You mentioned the travel, the luggage, lost luggage, and multiple other tasks. So basically, I already imagined how I will have someone schedule everything for me and help me figure out the puzzle of basically anything related to my kids and how I can get my calendar organized. What's one of the, I always love interesting stories.
Yeah.
What are one of, like when users started signing up, users like you and I. So what was the most surprising tasks that you saw that they were using you guys for?
Oh my gosh. We have done truly everything under the sun. Someone recently asked us, that monkey that went viral for loving on the stuffy? Oh my gosh. Someone actually wrote in and said, can I donate like a fleet of stuffies to this monkey in Japan? Like, how do I make that happen? So you are talking about, reaching out in different languages. We actually found a human who could fluently speak Japanese, made it all happen end to end. I mean, we've truly, we've retrieved lost teddy bears that were left in a hotel, overseas during a family vacation, and the family thought it was lost and gone forever. We have done the very mundane of, I need a specialist for my kid. It's a really important doctor's appointment, and they're telling me that the first appointment is 9 months out. Could you please call every day to see if there was any cancellation that can get my kid in tomorrow? And, sure enough, within a week or two, there's always cancellations. And who has time to call every morning and check in and do it nicely so that they're not annoyed by it and get you in quickly? So really, I think, we had a long debate when we first started the company about whether we could do that long tail well, whether it was even possible to execute on the long tail well. And there were a lot of people who said it wasn't possible. And I'm really glad that we stuck with the contrarian approach. We don't do illegal things. There are certainly some things like, writing your master's thesis, stuff like that we'll tell you in the moment. Just we're not set up to do well. And we have some standards, for you and for us.
Policies and rules, yes.
Exactly.
We're not going to break for you.
We would never want to flunk your, master's thesis because we're not an expert in European history or whatever it may be. But beyond those things, you really can come to us for the long tail. You said earlier, the number of passwords and logins and apps that you have to manage is enormous and exhausting unto itself. And one of the core theses was that busy people are sick of the enormity of different logins and apps that they have to juggle to get things done. They want one place they can dump the mess. And by the way, I think there's a really interesting evolution happening in AI where I'm not sure apps are even going to be the primary way that consumers interface with all these different products and services in a couple of years' time. About a year ago, I found that a really hard future to imagine. And now that I've seen the evolution of some of these technologies, I'm seeing it more and more with the popularity of things like OpenClaw and products that can really be that autonomous agent acting on your behalf. My gut is there will still be use cases for apps here and there, but that an agent will become a primary interface for a lot of us. And when I think about really where Duckbill shines and what we have built, it is in the infrastructure layer that can manage the long tail. Frankly, it took us years and tens of millions of interactions and data points to understand not only how to do the long tail well, but also the ever-evolving frontier of what AI could do and where the baton needed to be handed to a human. And after investing there, we've done it. And that has paid off really handsomely, knowing that that's really what consumers are looking for.
And what are some of those most underestimated skills that you think AI can help us with?
AI is really, really good at processing huge amounts of data, noticing patterns that it would take an incredible amount of analysis, or as I have said to analysts on my team for years, like wading through the data to find the diamond in the rough, and being very technically sound. AI is great at catching technical flaws, typos and limits, following sets of rules. Where AI is not good is understanding the broader context. And that's often what creates the complexity for the kinds of real world tasks that Duckbill is doing. Understanding that, in New York, 3 miles is an eternity and might send you to Staten Island for the dentist, but in Dallas-Fort Worth, 3 miles is actually really convenient. And that contextual difference is life or death for the busy person who's trying to juggle it all. And so really combining what humans do really well, which is understanding contextual clues, the bigger picture, how to navigate edge cases, how to negotiate the real world, and frankly, even just making that relationship with the receptionist at the doctor's office or the person that you're trying to convince to give you a refund for your overdue return. That's where humans shine. And when you bring that together with the scalability and data processing capabilities that AI brings to the fore, it creates a magical interface.
Many founders chase technology. You seem to chase a category change.
Yes.
How did you really understand the opportunity for Duckbill? What was that signal for you that there's no one else on the market offering exactly that?
This is such a good question. and is very clearly coming from, probably my guess is like core to why you started your business and also why you are so good at it, because you understand at the end of the day that most humans, with the exception of maybe the earliest adopters on the spectrum who like technology for technology's sake, most people just want their problem solved. They want their pain to go away. And outside of those earliest tinkerers and innovators who love dissecting the motherboards or love putting together their own open claw system or love trying the newest thing, even if it has a ton of bugs and it's not perfect yet, most people want something that can make their pain go away. And especially in a world where the technology is changing so fast, getting wed to the technology not only doesn't set you on a path to achieve product market fit very quickly, it also, I think, sets you up to become obsolete or irrelevant really quickly. I mean, even the AI technology that we were using a couple of years ago is no longer relevant.
Right.
The tech has changed so much, the capabilities have changed so fast that it has been really rewarding to say, look, we're out to make people's lives easier and to actually crack open this democratization of real world boots on the ground help that has never been available. And we believe that AI is going to crack it open now in a high quality, scalable way. But we are really agnostic as to exactly how the technology works, what piece of technology we're bringing to bear, as long as we are making consumers' pain go away quickly and efficiently. And that's served us really well.
And that actually brings me to one of my last questions for you, which is to make the pain go away of busy people and the busy life that we all live. I just wanted to make sure that our listeners understand that Duckbill actually has free tiers for usage. So it's actually very accessible. Do you mind telling us a bit more about, again, the user experience? So how can they sign up and what does the subscription look like?
Yes, absolutely. So for your listeners who have probably all used some version of AI, Claude, ChatGPT, it works the same way. You can come onto our system and sign up for an entry-level tier that gets you some minimum amount of bandwidth, maybe to play around with. You can upgrade to a household level where you can bring multiple people on, share tasks more fluidly, have more capacity for more things you need to do. And of course, for people who build the habit and are using Duckbill, sometimes upwards of like 20 times a week for real world tasks, there are much higher tiers that allow them to access significantly more capacity in a really accessible way. It's all based on usage level. And we want to make sure that for people at different stages of their life or different stages of their adoption journey, that we meet you where you are. And so you can come on for, well, less than $100 a month. You can come on for $99 even. You can come on for more than that, based on how much you'd like to use it, and let your usage ebb and flow over time.
And basically it is, the system itself can identify whether your task is simple enough for AI to handle or if it needs the human in the loop.
You got it.
To basically come and help, which is great. I mean, it's a great model. I am absolutely honored to have had you as our guest.
It's such a pleasure.
And I already look forward to seeing you again soon and testing out Duckbill. So we'll make sure to provide the promo code for all of our viewers and listeners.
Great.
Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. It was such a joy.
Thank you. And to all of our viewers and listeners, please don't forget to visit moneysignalpodcast.com and follow us on our official social media handles, which are linked in the description of this video below. Thank you guys. See you soon.